The Batman Arkham games are part of a series that is truly special to me. It matters a lot to me, and honestly, it's helped me form some of my best friendships, been even the basis of my marriage in a way, since my wife originally found me by watching one of my videos, believe it or not, and we started talking that way back in the day. This is a series that I love very dearly, but today I wanted to talk about something a little different with this series, which is 5 things that this series actually did best and did really for all of us, for the video game medium, for fans of these characters, for pretty much everybody. 5 things that these games did that I think are really special. So before we hop further into it, if you enjoy the video, you want to leave a like, subscribe. A lot of people are not seeing my videos lately. It's kind of a bummer. So on YouTube, if you're watching there, you want to, hit that notification bell, stuff like that. That all does help us. And I do want to say really quick, I have a question of the day for you, which is there something that you think these games did that's truly special that either other games haven't done, or maybe this helped popularize, anything like that? I'm interested to hear in the comments down below.
Number 5.
This series helped set a new standard for world design, especially in superhero games, but I will say it also, I believe, helped improve video game world design in general. But when it comes to superhero games, I'm not going to pretend that there weren't any good worlds before Arkham. I'm not going to pretend that there haven't been any good ones since Arkham. That's not the point. What I do think Arkham did was it came out, it was so wildly popular and successful over the years, and it expanded so much in different avenues that what it did was it packed its world full of Easter eggs, dialogue, missable content, but not missable content in the sense of like you really missed out. Missable content in the sense of if you're paying attention, you're actually going to learn more about the world, about these characters, find new hidden stories within that world. This series did that for superhero games. It reminded developers, and I think reminded publishers as well, that if you actually put a budget behind something, you actually record voice dialogue for background characters, you actually include Easter eggs and secrets, people are going to see more of a value in your world, and they're going to want to spend more time there. They're going to want to buy your next game as well, because they're going to want to know what is actually going to be included in the world that follows. They're not just going to be satisfied with your one good world you gave them. They're not just going to be happy with Arkham City. They're going to say, okay, but what else you got? What else? Where else is this secret sauce going? And I think that this was something that superhero games especially needed. A lot of my favorite superhero games that came out prior to Arkham Asylum, it's not that they had bad worlds, but I would argue that their worlds were not as lively, detailed, intricate, or really even lived in or authentic feeling as the Arkham worlds were. And I think that's crazy to say because the Arkham worlds already have unrealistic things in them, especially the fact that basically every game evacuates the citizens before the game starts or finds a way to keep them indoors. And yet despite that, it still feels like a real, intricate, deep world. And that's something that went on to impact and influence so many other games.
Number 4. It's the 4th one.
4.
Another aspect I could make an entire video on alone is giving us more of the Kevin Conroy version of Batman, and I will also tack on here Mark Hamill as the Joker. Now, there are a lot of other characters and voice actors, some of which even reprised roles from the animated universe of the DCAU, from things like Batman the Animated Series. It's not just these two, so we could look at several others as well. But the reason I wanted to focus in on these two is because their dynamic is truly special. Kevin Conroy's Batman and Mark Hamill's Joker, they're two peas in a pod. They play so well off of each other in pretty much every single piece of art that they've ever been in that I can think of. Even the worst of the films that they've been in together, they elevate those films. They make them better. Their performances together are something truly special. And now that unfortunately Kevin Conroy has passed away, which is something that is just honestly heartbreaking, happened a while ago, of course, but it's something that, I think a lot of us still think about, we're sadly not going to see any more of his version of Batman. I mean, at least in terms of new recordings. Obviously, a thing here or there will pop up that he had already done, especially with games like Multiverses, but in terms of new projects that he's recording now, that's sadly not something that we get to see anymore. It's heartbreaking, but it's true. And so to actually see this Batman, this amazing voice actor, I would say even, who, obviously matters much more than just the role of Batman, affected many lives. But to see his work kind of preserved pretty much for as long as the human race and technology are, seeing him as this character, seeing him deliver emotional, powerful performances, and being able to play through those performances as that character is something that I think is honestly beautiful and wonderful. It's something I love. It's one thing that I'm so glad we got out of these games. And obviously Mark Hamill as Joker is someone as well that, as of recording this, he obviously is still around, but he has kind of said that he doesn't really want to play Joker much anymore without Kevin Conroy. So this was something that I think in hindsight is really a special thing, that without Arkham, we would have either had to have gotten a different game series that did Batman to get this again, or we might have missed out on these stellar performances.
Number three.
These games also helped create so many new fans, or really even just embolden and build up fans that were already kind of, blossoming into the superhero and comic book world of both Batman, superheroes, all these things, because it came out at a really special time. This was kind of coming out during a height of superhero movie games. It was coming out kind of at the height of coming off the back of things like, the Raimi trilogy of movie games, which I love, but obviously when you look at the standard and the quality of video game design, there's going to be some differences. And also it was kind of coming out during this era where the MCU was kind of starting to be a thing. There was a renaissance, I would say almost, of superhero screen content, be it movies, TV shows, cartoons, video games, and Arkham came out kind of smack dab in the middle of that as a truly amazing piece of art. Arkham Asylum, I should say, and later on City and the other games as well. And I really think that the timing on this, especially being 1 year after The Dark Knight originally came out, with Arkham Asylum coming out 1 year after that, I think that really helped create so many new fans of superheroes, Batman, all these things, and even people who were starting to become fans, it gave them another piece of content that was truly special. It wasn't like slop thrown on your plate. This was something of substance and value that really helped build up the medium.
Number two, the numero dos.
I also believe the Arkham series helped push more creativity for costumes and cosmetics in superhero games. Now that said, I'm not gonna make the argument that the Batman Arkham series did this the best in terms of it's had the best costumes ever. Despite where Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is at now, especially, there were games in the Spider-Man franchise before this that I think were doing a very good job of pushing cosmetics, even just in the base game. Especially back on the PlayStation 1 and I believe the N64, Dreamcast, the original Spider-Man game that's often associated with PS1. That game and its sequel, Enter Electro, I think did a really good job with having this kind of content as well. So it wasn't just Arkham that did this, but a lot of superhero games had actually moved away from a lot of cosmetics since those days. The Raimi Spider-Man trilogy of games that was extremely popular had moved away from it. Some of the Activision Spider-Man games, they had some at the time, but they didn't have tons of them. This was kind of a kick in the pants to get more cosmetics in superhero games. Now, the reason I don't say it's the best is because they were kind of charging people for all of these things. When Arkham City came out originally, those of you who might not be old enough to remember, when it was coming out on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, there was all kinds of ridiculous things to actually get these costumes, from pre-order bonuses to redeeming codes off of energy drink cans. So I'm not saying it was the best implementation of this. I actually think the best implementation of this might be Insomniac's Spider-Man 1, which has a really robust and awesome selection of costumes, even just in the base game with no DLC. But this helped push us further in that direction, and then you were even getting games that came out after this that are considered Arkham clones or Arkham clone-likes, like the Amazing Spider-Man 1 game, which actually, again, went more in that cosmetic direction than a lot of Spider-Man games had been for a while. I think that that's awesome, and I think a lot of that is because of Arkham.
Number one!
Splat.
The final thing I wanted to mention is that I truly believe that this series set a standard and expectation for combat in superhero games. Now, this was combat that actually went on to really influence a lot of other games as well. Games like the Shadow of series for the Mordor games from, the Lord of the Rings world, Middle-earth. Games like, of course, as well, even some of the Assassin's Creeds took some inspiration from this. Now, there were superhero games before this that weren't all button mashing. I think that there's a misunderstanding that Arkham came out with a more rhythm-based combat and everything copied Arkham. There was nothing before that that had any kind of rhythm-based combat, nothing before that that had anything other than button mashing. It's actually not true. Games, especially as well, like the first Raimi Spider-Man game, had a lot of combos that you could learn, pick up different things throughout the game. Even the second game as well, it kind of focused a little bit more on the dodging with spider sense mechanic, which is actually similar in some ways to the countering in Arkham. I'm not trying to pretend that Arkham created this type of combat entirely rhythm-based and that was it. Even games like Devil May Cry, I think a lot of people have the idea that they're just button mashers. There's actually a lot of thinking as well with some of this combat where you're varying between different things. Now, my point though is that I think this game series, I should say, Arkham, helped set a standard. It helped actually push the industry and push different games and developers in a direction of realizing, well, we don't want our combat to just come off as mashy. Whether it is or isn't, we don't want people to take a look at our combat and think, well, all you do is mash square or X or whatever in order to win, and that's it. We don't want players to leave feeling like it was a hollow combat experience. Arkham set up this very intricate combat system that is on its surface simple, it's easy to pick up, and I would say moderately difficult to master. Not really difficult, but moderately difficult to master. And it threw in different things throughout the games, different gimmicks, different types of enemies that would kind of test your ability to react to those things and to remember what actually worked on what type of enemy. Now, some of those things will annoy me to no end, like some of the ninjas and things like that, but I do absolutely love what they did with these games, and I think that it helped basically superhero games be elevated beyond this. There is the problem of everybody thinking they need to copy this exact style of combat. I don't think that that's what you need to do either, but I do love that this style of combat kind of set a bar and a standard and helped elevate these types of games beyond what they were. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. Are there any things that you think I didn't talk about that this game series did to help gaming in general, to help the character, to help any of these things? I'm interested to hear that as well. If you want to support this channel, you can actually use our Fortnite code DJAY123. That helps us out a lot on the support a creator tab under the store on Fortnite, pretty much any platform that Fortnite is on, obviously. We also do have our own store, cosmobunny.shop, where you can also use code DJAY123 for 10% off your entire order. If you're a fan of comic books, manga, any of this stuff, what we actually do is we get these things. We don't just, print these pictures offline. We don't just go find comic books that are in perfect condition. We get comic books and manga that are damaged, that are unable to be sold. We're either given them, gifted them, or we buy them dirt cheap from stores that often they're going to end up in the landfills, things like that. And what we do is we take these things, we create new resin pieces, coasters, keychains, and more out of them for your home. It's a transformative art piece. I love it very much. It goes to help support our channel and support what we do. We also make handmade beaded jewelry there too. My wife Jill does that, and it's really great. I love it very much. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a fantastic day. Leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more. And if you're not getting notifications or not seeing my uploads, I typically upload on this channel about every other day. Sometimes it's more often, sometimes it's less, but I'd appreciate if you guys check that out because it's been a little disheartening lately, at least on YouTube, to kind of see people not seeing those things. I don't know why they don't show people anymore, but appreciate you. Have a fantastic day. As always, everyone, stay shway.